How you going, people? Man, this was a pretty interesting movie. This is on Netflix, Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. I don't know if you can see it somewhere else. There's, I think, 7 episodes or 6 episodes. I think it was a good watch because I like looking at the inconsistencies and looking at it from a legal standpoint. I made some notes, and I can't play a lot of it because they'll copyright, but let me tell you, this dude was a lot sleazier than I thought, and better connected, and the shit he did. However, I just had to kiss you before I screw you. However, the women that are the victims are not victims. They all took money. They all went back multiple times. They were living a good life, and now, 20 years later, they have regret and see that he's got money and they want to get some of it. I mean, I can see why a prosecutor wouldn't take this to trial, because the victims and the women in here are all, to me, typical left-wing women in power. I'm strong, I'm this, I'm that. And now in here, it's like, I was only 22 and he tricked me and he made me give him a massage and it wasn't fair. And then he made me introduce my sister, and then he did that to my sister and she got money and she brought people and it wasn't fair. And it was just, I mean, the victims in here are absolutely disgusting to me, because it's just, I can't find one real victim in there. And like I said, they all took money. Let's listen to this. They show him a lot of clips at the beginning of each episode of his deposition.
Would you raise your hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please state your full name?
And Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Do you maintain any other residences presently?
I have vacation homes in New Mexico, Palm Beach, New York, and Paris.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
What was the crime of which you were convicted?
2 counts. One, soliciting prostitution, and procuring a minor for prostitution.
Did you in fact commit those acts?
I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
How many times have you solicited a minor for prostitution?
Same answer.
How many times have you solicited a minor for prostitution in the state of Florida?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited a minor for prostitution in the Virgin Islands?
Same answer.
That is, you are invoking your Fifth Amendment.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, Mr. Scroll.
Have you ever solicited for prostitution in New York?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited for prostitution in New Mexico?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited for prostitution in Paris?
Same answer.
Okay, so depositions are a little bit different than court. If you've never been in court, when you get on the stand, you can't do what he's doing here. He's selectively answering some questions so he can get his point across, and then the incriminating questions, he's like, I'm invoking my Fifth. Now, don't come here and call me a tyrant and jackboot because I'm saying that he shouldn't have the right to remain silent. He has the right to invoke. But in criminal cases, you either invoke or you talk. You can't pick or choose. When you get on a stand, that's why most criminals do not take the stand, because they can't invoke arbitrarily or, when it's convenient. They either have to invoke entirely or they can't invoke, and they got to answer everything. So now their attorney has 2 choices. Do I put him on a stand? Is he going to come out looking better or worse when they get all the bad out? Normally the answer is he's going to look worse. So that's why most crooks don't take the stand. Rick, it doesn't matter. I know you don't have to. Quit crying and being a freaking little Ponzi backdoor Antifa trying to stir shit up. I'm explaining the law. So here he gets to say, I invoke, and then when they ask something he wants to answer, he answers. And in a couple times, his lawyer goes, I'm going to invoke his Fifth. I don't want my client answering that. And he turns to his lawyer and goes, I'd like to answer that, and he answers it anyway, which totally tells you he's in charge and he gets to pick and choose and cherry pick what he wants to say. Man, this whole case was just freaking amazing. I couldn't believe it. A lot of victims, I mean, the number of victims is freaking crazy. Now, Trump, they put Trump in this video, probably they talk about Trump probably 10 or 12 times. It's outrageous how many times Trump lived next door to the dude. They were neighbors. Trump never went to his island. Trump never solicited. Trump never had any negative involvement whatsoever with this dude. And left-wing Netflix run by Obama mentions Trump every chance they get. They were neighbors in Palm Beach. Trump lived there first. He moved in. What do you want Trump to do? Move away and run? I mean, it's just crazy how they painted this picture. He also, Epstein, recruits somebody that works for Trump and turns her into a prostitute. She goes out there, gives a massage for $200, ends up having sex, recruiting a bunch of other girls, and they blame that on Trump. Trump hired a woman that was working. This guy moves in next door, traps this woman into working for him, and then Now, this woman here, man, let me tell you, she is the master manipulator of all these women. If everybody ought to be pissed off at him, she used her womanhood, her sisterhood, and she recruited all these women, suckered them in, gave them half-truths, covered up for him, threatened these women. I mean, she used his money. She was definitely the puppet master behind this dude. Now, I'm not saying he's not a weasel, but she's just as much as a weasel, and they don't hardly even make her look like the bad guy. It's only Epstein and Trump. Now, Obama went on his plane 26 times to Pedophile Island, and I think they mentioned Clinton once, maybe twice. Trump didn't do anything but live next door to the dude, and he got mentioned like 12 times. I mean, the bias is just crazy. So that part kind of drove me nuts. And of course, the left wing is always doing their bias to the poor woman victim. Women are strong. Women are just as strong as men. They can do any job. They deserve equal pay. You can't say anything about us because we're strong. A man pushed me. He should go to prison. When I get a divorce, I can't get a job, so the man should have to pay me for the rest of my life. A man paid me $200. I went over there voluntarily and did this, and it's his fault. I couldn't. He was a mastermind. He manipulated women. It was all him. All these poor women who are great and strong suddenly can't say no. I mean, the hypocrisy of this video was just, which is why, and I think the prosecution is a freaking weasel, but in this case, the prosecution did not prosecute. These two are such a team, man. I mean, this video, I mean, this is a woman. This is the sister of one of the other victims. This girl was, I think her sister was like 17 or 18, and she was doing it and go, hey, man, it's easy money. And then she cried and said, oh, it was just too much. I had to leave. So then she leaves and plays the victim. And then 2 months later, they call her and go, do you want to go to Africa as Epstein's personal assistants? And she goes, well, okay, the money's good, and I've never had a chance to go to Africa. So against my better judgment, I went ahead and did it. And then on the trip, she recommends her sister, who is younger than her, to come do it. And her sister goes and does it. And she gets $200 apiece. And now her sister's like, oh, it's Epstein's fault. It's not my sister who I trusted that tricked me into this dude who knew what he was going to do to me. No, it's not her fault. It's not any of the women's fault. I mean, I was just like, holy shit, are you talking about women victimhood, left-wing lies? And again, I got to say it 1,000 times, Epstein was a piece of shit. He was taking advantage and he was using his money. But you know what? He never forced anybody. He never held anybody at bay. He didn't take their phones. He didn't lock them up and make them stay. He tricked them with money, and they all made voluntary choices that they chose to be there and they chose to leave. And now they're all victims. Man, I got to get through my, So, of course, they show this girl. That's a girl you just saw. They show her as this little innocent thing, you know. It's hard to picture her as saying, oh, yeah, I'll take $200 to go massage an old man. Yeah, no problem. Even though my sister did it, my sister tricked me. But no, Rick, look how innocent she looks. She's just a poor victim. So, I mean, very, very biased. I got no problem. This dude had, I mean, he's got money out the freaking yin yang. They got tapes of him. This is another woman that, oh, I couldn't help it. And I went there and the first time it was okay. And then I brought freaking 15 other girls I went to high school and asked all my cheerleader friends if they would do it. And I may get some of these messed up. When you watch it, I may be wrong. It's just all the victims ran together because they all had the same story. I came from a broken home. I didn't have a father. I was poor. It wasn't my fault. $200 was a lot of money. It's all Epstein's fault. I went back 16 times. I brought 20 other girls. It's all Epstein's fault. I mean, I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? And people are going to buy into this, that these women are just, and I'm not saying they weren't victims. Look, it was statutory rape. Statutory rape is by statutory. It's wait. By statute, it makes it rape. It's not meaning force or fear. It means that a woman had sex when the law, the state, who say women should have control of their body, the state says, women, you aren't smart enough to consent until you're 18. Therefore, if you have sex with anybody and you later want to say that you were a victim, we can charge that person with statutory rape. However, if you have sex at 16, it's no crime for you. You didn't do anything wrong because you're a woman and you're a victim and you can't think and it's not your fault. And it has to be other people's fault. So when you get into sex crime laws, it's all very, some states, I think California, there's an enhancement if it's over 10 years different. There's an enhancement if the person is in charge of you or has power over you, like a job or something. Then there's an enhancement if he's like your coach and he can get you on a sports team. There's enhancement for that. So they just keep raising the enhancements for women that make bad decisions. Rick, it's not their fault. They're only children. Okay, well, if they're only children, why is the left wing trying to get women to vote at 16? They want everybody to vote at 16 because they say they're smart enough to vote. So according to liberal La La Land, if you're 16, you're smart enough to vote, but you're not smart enough to have sex or choose who to have sex with. But I digress. Let me try to get to my different takes here. So here's my little notes that I took while I was watching this. All girls took money, recruited others, and went back several times. But this series plays them all as helpless victims. It took them 7 months to get a search warrant. The Palm Beach police tried to go after him. And I don't know why it took 7 months to get a search warrant. Naked, half-dressed kids. Oh, so when these women go over to this guy's house, Epstein has all these women photographs on his wall. And they're all kids, when I say kids, maybe adolescents. I'm not talking about 7-year-old kids. I'm talking about 16, maybe 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. We'll say teens. He's got women on the walls that are naked with their breasts showing. None of them are really what I would call raunchy. I mean, they're out of taste. But you can have a nude woman that's looks like a decent picture. And everybody, oh, you just like a Playboy, Rick. All right, whatever. You freaking idiots want to come here. I'm trying to make a point that the photos were art and they were women and there is some good paintings of a woman's body enhancing her body and not making a woman look raunchy. And I didn't think his photos had that raunchy appearance because he had a lot of money and rich and they were all paintings. They weren't freaking Playboy, fold-outs in a frame. But anyway, the girls should have had a clue, but they couldn't think. They were only, let's see, the victims were, I think the youngest one was 16. The rest were 17, 18, 20, 22, maybe 27. These are all the victims. But they weren't smart enough to see this. Rick, you're just that, whatever. So when they did the search warrant after 7 months, Epstein got tipped off. And all his computer hard drives were gone, and most of the computers were gone, and the computers that were there, the hard drives were removed. So somebody tipped him off, and he cleaned out all his shit. Which is hard to prove unless you can find out how he got tipped off. But anybody with 2 brain cells, no, he was tipped off. Why would he remove all that shit right before the search warrant was served? Even then, they found a lot of evidence. They found the women. They found all kind of stuff. Also, when they did the search warrant, the things that they discovered was all the house. This corroborated the witnesses, I'm sorry, the victims, that they were actually in a house. Because when you interview a victim and they say they were raped or they were in a house, you want to get them to describe facts and things about the house, what they touched, etc. So maybe when you get a warrant, you can go in there and print that, and you find their prints, and it puts them in the house. Because then when the guy says, hey, that girl was never in my house, now we got her prints in the house. Well, if we don't have prints, then we can say, describe the house. What was the color scheme? Was there anything specific? Was there any furniture that's specific, etc.? So that when you go to a search warrant, you confirm all that, and now you give credibility to their statement that, hey, he can't say they weren't here. He may say what happened didn't happen, but he can't say they weren't here because we can corroborate they knew things that only somebody that was in a house. So that's why that's important in an investigation. And they found some phone messages. He had a message book where the women would call and he would set up these. The dude had a lot of sex with a lot of women. I mean, damn, man, he was getting massages. It seemed like freaking 3 and 4 times a day with different girls. They all described his penis as egg-shaped. I don't know what the hell an egg-shaped penis is. They said it was fatter at the base than at the top or something. I don't know. I'm not really an expert on penis terminology, but all the women described his penis as being egg-shaped. Let's see. So in the phone book, they had messages from the girls. Again, that's further corroboration from the search warrant. You want to make sure and get all documents, evident, indicia. You put that in your search warrant, and now you can confirm that, hey, Lizzie's coming over at 7 p.m. on this day, and she said she was there, and it was the morning time. Now we can use that to corroborate her statement. New York consent. A lot of these girls from New York, their consent is 17. Florida is 18. So a lot of the 17-year-olds were legally there. Like I said, there were 20-year-olds. There were 30-year-olds that were claiming it wasn't their fault, and he tricked them, and he was a master at speaking, and he put some magical spell on them. And now there was even men that said he was a pretty domineering figure. He could manipulate people, and even some of his bosses said that. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you just can't run around life and blame everybody because you make poor decisions. It wasn't their fault. Why are you picking? All right, whatever. Believe me, if these were all men like the Catholic Church, nobody would be in jail and they wouldn't be doing this. Let's see. Almost all the victims claim to have a hard life. Every one of them. They all used drugs. They all had tattoos. They were all runaways. They all gave sex, oral sex, intercourse, and came back numerous times. So to me, very inconsistent, very hard for a prosecution to put a witness on the stand because his attorneys are going to have a field day. And they did have a field day. They showed a couple of women during the deposition. They asked the women, how many times did you go back and have sex? One woman said she was so traumatized by him and he made her jack him off, or I forgot what they called it in there, massage him in the penis, or whatever they called it. And one girl was in there like, it was so traumatizing, it caused me to get bad grades and to use drugs. And the attorney asked her, isn't it true you had 3 abortions at 14 and you went to his house at 17? He goes, was the 3 abortions more traumatic than taking $200 every time you gave him a massage? And her attorney objects. Oh, objection, you can't say that. You're making my client look bad. I'm like, oh my God. Jeffrey took 2 years of college in physics, never graduated, and then he got a teaching position at a very high college. And then he was hired by an investment firm, and he lied about his education. When they found out he lied, they were going to fire him, but he was doing such a good job, they promoted him. So, I mean, this guy definitely almost had like a golden fairy, and everything he touched turned to gold. And he met a lot of people, a lot of money. Palm Beach charged Jeffrey. When Palm Beach charged Epstein, he hired 8 lawyers, including a Harvard professor, Kenneth Starr, which was Clinton's attorney. Just happened that Clinton was on his plane 26 times, and now Clinton recommends his attorney to him. I'm sure that was just a coincidence. But anyway, and I think Clinton was only mentioned twice during the whole series. Trump 18 times because he lived next door to him. Palm Beach, let's see, Epstein followed the cops. So this is kind of cool. Epstein hired, and this, if you want to go watch this, you'll get all this. but I just kind of put some highlights when I was watching. Epstein followed the cops 24/7. He hired private investigators to follow all the cops working on his case. They picked up his trash to find dirt on him and help his case. Man, when you got money, it's amazing how you can stop a tyrannical government. Private investigators were caught going through the trash at the PD. So the PD had to stop throwing shit away because they were pulling things that they shredded in reports out of the trash can in the back of the PD. Now, people are going to say, isn't that theft? Once you put trash out to be picked up, it's considered not private property. So you lose standing to say it's your personal property. So when you put your trash on the street, anybody, including cops, which is we used to do if we were looking for some information on somebody, we'd sit on their house as soon as they left for work. We'd go there on trash day. When they put their trash out, we'd let them leave. We'd have one of the guys follow them to make sure they didn't come back. And then a couple of guys would go through the trash and tear through their trash to see if we can find evidence. You know, whether it be rubbers, DNA, whatever. Anything on the street, fair game. I don't need a warrant. I don't need consent. I don't need anything. So that works for private investigators too. Doesn't just work for cops. You have no expectation of privacy. Let's see. Epstein followed 24 picked up. Private investigators are going through trial. Let's see. State attorney first said after looking at case. Oh, yeah. So this was kind of interesting. The state attorney that let him off first said, oh, man, we're going to put this guy away from life. This is an easy case. Palms Beach police bought him like 40 different victims. 40 women claiming to be victim. I shouldn't say 40 victims. 40 women claiming to be a victim. They bought him 40 of these that would testify. So that's an easy slam dunk case when you're looking at 5, 10, 15 years per each count, per each time, per each woman. It doesn't take long to where you're going away for life. So the attorney looks at this and goes, oh man, this is a great case. We got everything. We're going to put this guy away from life. Really? Okay. Later, the state attorney said the victims were not good witnesses. I agree. Oh, hang on. Let me answer this. All right. I'm going to keep going because it's Bob. He didn't answer my call yesterday, so I don't want to lose the train of thought here. Somebody be writing, Bob, you didn't answer your phone. He called you. Oh, shut up. He should have answered my damn phone yesterday when I had a question for him. All right. So, let's see. Hired 8 lawyers. Where the hell was I? Oh, yeah. So later, the state attorney said the victims weren't good witnesses since they all got paid. They weren't called victims. They were called minor prostitutes. They were prostitutes. Rick, they weren't prostitutes. They were abused young girls. They took money for sex. That makes you a prostitute. Because the person that pays you money for sex makes you a John, makes you solicitation for prostitute. So they were prostitutes. And all the victims were crying, we don't like being called prostitutes. They made us look bad. You took money multiple times to have sex with this guy. And now you're claiming it wasn't your fault. Okay, I got it. Hang on, let's go. Let's see, Jeff. Oh, yeah. So when they charged Jeff, later he got charged because they weren't good witnesses. They charged him with one felony for solicitation for sex. Nothing about minor sex, nothing about anything. They just got him for one count of solicitation for sex. So this is amazing. He was arrested. He bonded out. And I think he did his time in a jail. I'll get to that in a second. I'm going down my notes. The attorney deposed all the victims. One girl had 3 abortions. Asked what was worse, 3 abortions or Epstein, or massaging Epstein for money. Reporters on the case were called and told not to continue the story. Oh, yeah. So that woman that I was showing, she was calling and she had some contacts with the press and told them it wouldn't be good for their careers. They need to stop reporting on this. And they tried to squash the case. Well, guess what? Most reporters are left-wing. And as soon as they found out Clinton and all their other left-wing cronies were involved in this, they stopped reporting it. They sold out all the women that they claim to be such great protectors of. They sold them out and stopped covering the case and let Epstein walk and let all these poor women down. But Rick, the left-wing media loves women and they're going to protect them because that's what the left is about protecting women and it's their body and they can do what they want unless they're getting paid and then it's not their fault. Okay, whatever. Let's see. So after they stopped reporting it and they only got one case, the chief of police was pissed. So he called the FBI, and he referred the case to the FBI. One victim called by Epstein, her name was, I never can say her name, Ghisline. Ghislaine is, I think, what they called her. But she told the reporters it wouldn't be safe if they kept continuing. She told one of the victims that, I know where you run. Be careful. A lot of bad things happen where you run. It's not safe out there. And this is because this woman found out that the FBI was notified, and evidently she went to the FBI. So it sounds like we had a lot of witness intimidation going on. That was never charged, never looked into. One of the girls brought 40 girls at $200 a girl. So here's what these victims did. Poor victim. Oh, Rick, it wasn't her fault. She would get $200 if she went over there and gave Epstein a massage. Well, when she left, he said, you know what? For every girl you bring me, I'll give you $200. So these girls ran out to high schools and got all their friends and said, hey, man, if you go over there, man, he'll pay you $200 easy money. So the girls go over there. Not only does the girl get $200, but the pimp, I'm sorry, not the pimp, the victim, the poor victim gets another $200 for every girl they brought. I think there was 2 or 3 different girls that brought over 40 different girls at $200 a girl. And then if they did it themselves, they got $200. Epstein then gets involved in a Ponzi scheme, faking $460 million plan to steal money with fake stock sales. So this is where he makes a lot of money. Epstein sold $46 million, or stole $46 million from the owner of the guy that owned the Limited and Victoria's Secrets. Evidently, this guy, the owner of Limited and Victoria's Secrets, loved Epstein, and they were buddies until Epstein stole $460 million. It's funny how $460 million or $46 million tends to hurt a friendship, but I don't get it. Anyway, I thought friendship was worth more, and we should hug and love, and if we just turn the other cheek and get rid of our guns, we'll be safe. Never mind, I digress. Private investigator found 46 victims and gave it to the FBI. FBI kept the case for 2 years. A 54-page indictment. Then the FBI cut off contact with the police. U.S. Attorney Acosta. This is a low-life, no good, nothing. And Trump picked him, and this is where they brought Trump in again, even though I don't think that had anything to do with Epstein. He was at the right place. Somehow Acosta was going to be Secretary of Health or something, and all this shit came out that he cut the sweetheart deal, and he protected Epstein. And Trump fired him, but he ended up coming out, I think it's best if I resign. Okay, whatever. So Acosta, an attorney, a U.S. attorney, was a piece of shit in this whole case. He cut a deal from 15 years to 8 months. Epstein was facing 15 years, and he cut a deal that Epstein only got 18 months. I was like, holy shit, you talk about a great deal. Epstein, in this deal, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't freaking believe it. I keep trying to find it. If somebody can find this document and put it in the comments, it'll be cool. Epstein got immunity in this deal. Look, to get immunity is something that's very tough to do. Prosecutors don't like to give out immunity because if they give you immunity for everything, then if you kill somebody and they find out later, they can't charge you. So they very rarely give you full immunity. Sometimes they'll give you limited immunity resulting from this specific case and crimes in this case, as long as you tell the truth and don't lie. And then they'll ask you if you ever committed a crime, any other crimes. If you say no, then they find out, then you lied, then they can violate the immunity. So that's normally how they get you a limited immunity when you get it. Epstein got immunity for any and all charges from state and federal. I can't freaking believe this. This is crazy. So nobody from the state or the feds can charge him with any crimes, both for himself, and this is the part I can't believe it, and his co-conspirators. Wait, it gets better. And any co-conspirator that is named, or even those that are unnamed. What the hell? And all records were sealed. This is what the state attorney did. I was like, are you freaking shitting me? You give a guy who's freaking been running the rings with Clinton and everybody, and you give him, you know what this was? This was a Clinton immunity deal. This was, if Clinton ever got charged or found out to do this, Clinton just got immunity, so we can't charge him. So now there's no bad blood on the poor liberal left-wing hands for promoting this shit, abuse of women, rape, child rape, statutory rape, rape for money, solicitation of money, the poor women. Acosta gave these guys a sweetheart deal. Oh my God, I was just like, are you kidding me? He kept invoking, he had good lawyers. Every time they asked a question, he'd invoke his 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment. A 20-year-old victim meets with him, flying on his private plane, while he has sex in front of everyone with another woman. So Epstein screws a woman in the middle of his plane in front of a bunch of other women while they're going to the island where everybody gets naked in the massage room. Later, she says she was raped, but she stayed on the island. It was really pretty. But Epstein raped her when she gave a massage. This is after she took a plane ride where he's sleeping with a girl in front of everybody. She gets off. And again, Epstein never, not one victim says they could never leave the island. They didn't have any way off the island. They could all come and go as they please. They were never locked up or made to be there. I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Another 21-year-old was a private masseuse. She went to the island, gave him a massage, said he pulled her on top of him and raped her. And then she went back to the villa and went on as normal. But now, looking back, he pulled her on her and raped her. She couldn't say no. I'm like, okay. No wonder they said the victims were. He got 18 months in a county jail. This is freaking another thing, money. In the county jail, they rented out a private wing for him. The door was left open. He had his own private room, TV room, workout, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He could leave the jail, go to work, hang out. He actually was seen flying on a plane out to islands, etc. But while he was doing this, part of his agreement, he had to pay for an off-duty deputy to follow him around, and he paid over $128,000 to the government and only served 13 months of his 18-month sentence. So not only did he get immunity for Clinton and all his other left-wing cronies, and the prince, I forgot the prince, maybe I brought him up later, the prince of something over there, UK, one of your royalty shit was over there, taking pictures with these girls, using these girls with Clinton and other left-wingers. But anyway, not only does he get a sweetheart deal immunity for all his cronies and himself, he gets to serve jail in a private ring, and he gets to leave like 12 hours a day and go to the office. So basically, he only had to sleep at the jail, and he had his own 24-hour deputy guard that he paid for by the government, because the government got money. They had to pay his salary so he could run around and do his things. Man, that was a tough sentence. Yeah, the laws are equal. Yeah, that happens all the time for the rest of us pesky citizens. I mean, this case just screamed of government abuse. It was all the left wing, and because of all the high-ranking left-wing politicians that were involved, it was brushed under the rug. Not only was it brushed under the rug, freaking Netflix does a video and make it Trump's fault. Are you freaking kidding me? Let's see. Private investigator found him to see if he was violating terms of his probation when he was out. 66 times this private investigator found him violating his terms. And when they called the sheriff goes, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of friends. What do you want us to do? So even while he's on probation, he gets to leave. He gets his private cell, and he's got immunity. Even when he violates the terms of probation six times, the sheriff goes, what do you want us to do? He's got a lot of money. I mean, this dude bought his way. If you talk about buying your way out of shit, this was the dude. I'm almost finished. I know it's going long. One victim, after she claimed rape many times, went back as a personal assistant. I already talked about her. She went to Africa, and on that trip, guess who was with him? Bill Clinton. Wow. Poor little victim. She got raped and went back as a personal assistant. Bill Clinton was there. Kevin Spacey was there. Chris Tucker was there. Then after the trip, she said he abused her again, but she stayed with him for 3 years. Then she's the one that brings her sister in to meet Jeff. After all this, she brings her sister, and she's the victim, and her poor sister's the victim. Are you kidding me? Her sister was at a party with Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. Weinstein, another left wing, another guy that was raping women. But Rick, the left is all for women's rights and they protect them. Yeah, that's because you're an idiot. One of the victims was 22 and blamed that she was raped at 14. Oh, so he didn't rape her at 14. She was already raped. So this 14-year-old was already raped at 14, using drugs, run away from home, all kind of problems. So when she's 22, she goes to Epstein, takes money, and claims that she was a victim of Epstein. Gee, I wonder why the prosecution didn't think these witnesses were good. Prince and Woody Allen were also at the parties after he got out of jail. All victims used drug, sex, runaway victims. I put a note, victim parade. All problems, bad choices by the victim, but yet it was all Epstein's fault. That was my note. One victim is asked was asked to have a baby for him. They wanted her to get pregnant and have a baby, and she would carry it. But she'd have to sign an agreement. And she said it was bad, but she said it was okay if you pay for my massage certificate. So this is one of the victims. This is one of the poor women that was a victim. She was a victim of Epstein. They wanted her to get pregnant and carry a baby. She was really offended by that and thought they abused her by asking her, but she couldn't say no because of the money, and she only agreed if they agreed to pay for her to get her massage certificate. So I think they sent her to Japan to get trained how to give massages. And so she was okay. But she ended up backing out. I think she met they sent her to Thailand, I think, or something. And she ended up meeting some dude over there and married him. So she backed out of having the kid for him. But she's still on a video crying how she was a victim. In 2001, Prince Andrew, I guess, was a dude. Also, Trump picked Acosta as labor secretary, even after he gave that deal. A federal judge rules U.S. failed to inform the victims. Okay, so this is where a federal judge came in and says, you know what? There's a Victims Crime Act or something that allows a victim to be in charge in the prosecution process, and the prosecution can't make deals or do things without consulting with the victim. Doesn't say the victim has any choice. Doesn't say the prosecutor has to listen to the victim. It only says the prosecutor has to hear him out. So a lot of prosecutors come in with a deal, and in order to comply with this act, they go, okay, here's the deal. Here's why we're doing it. I know it's not good, but you got to accept it, blah, blah. And the victim goes, I don't like it. It's not fair, blah, blah. Okay, great. Check mark. I complied with the victim bill. Now I'll go cut my deal. So it really isn't anything that requires victims to have a say. You know, if there was really a bill, it would say prosecutors cannot cut a plea agreement unless the victim approves. And it doesn't say that. It just says they have to listen to them. So anyway, and I haven't read the whole bill. Maybe it does say that. But anyway, Jeffrey is rearrested on sex trafficking and conspiracy. Max sentence of 45 years for all his crimes. Clinton was on Epstein's jet 26 times in 2001 and in 2003. And witnesses put him on Pedophile Island. That was his private island. It was nicknamed Pedophile Island because it was all a bunch of young girls. Clinton was on there, on his island, seen by multiple people and the people that worked there. Clinton testified he was never on the island. He gave press releases and said, I don't know if it was at a deposition or at a press release, I've never been to that island. Kind of like he never had sex with that girl till the blue dress showed up. Well, he's sticking to the same playbook. I was never on the island. He didn't disagree because there was flight logs of him on the plane flying with Epstein 26 times. Hell, we took business trips and he had a plane and, it was all, yeah, sure it was. Acosta resigned after all this deal became public because it was a shit deal. The reason they didn't give Epstein bail on this one, he offered $500 million for bail. He wanted to get out on bail. When they did a search warrant at his house, they found diamonds, fake passports, all kind of shit, a bunch of diamonds for money that was cash, all kind of things. So they said, hey, he's a flight risk. And that's why they didn't let him out of jail. And then he ended up killing himself. I'm sorry. He ended up slipping and the rope got wrapped around his neck and he accidentally fell and whatever. Okay, so in August 2019, Epstein did not kill himself. I put that note there. All the victims were mad. This just tells me how great it is. They can't get justice and they can't lose the limelight even if the guy's dead. They're mad. They didn't get to tell their story. So Netflix comes in and goes, we'll let you tell your story. We're a great company. We're non-biased. We're going to come in. This is one of the victims, purple hair, screaming, using drugs, ran away from home. Wasn't her fault. All Epstein, 22 years old. Anyway, Let's see. Jeff brother hires an expert to find the broken bones in his neck to prove that he wasn't. 2 days after the suicide. Oh, 2 days before the suicide, Epstein signed, and they put a picture of this in here. Maybe I'll try to slide it in if I can find it. Of his agreement right before he died, he signed on how he hid his money. He wanted all his money transferred to someone else. So all these victims can't get money. That's what they're really upset about. Is he screwed them on his way out, and they can't get money now. And that's what they wanted. Rick, that's not what they wanted. They were victims, and it wasn't, and you don't understand. Whatever. I've dealt with real rape victims. I've dealt and interviewed women that were beat and bloodied and were raped and were shaking and was crying and were in a fetal position when they talked to me and was scared for me to be in a room. And it was so, I just hated it because I saw the freaking crushing demise of this woman and her soul because of what this freaking piece of shit did to her. And I've seen real victims of rape. And these women were not victims. Well, Rick, women handle it different. And you, whatever. I don't want to hear that. You freaking victim lovers. All right, where am I at? So this is after the judge refused to dismiss the case. Oh, yeah, the judge refused to dismiss the case since you can't try a dead guy. So they were like, look, judge, we need to dismiss this. The attorney says he's dead. We can't try a dead person. The judge goes, no, I'm not dismissing it. And so he let all the victims come in and tell their story and cry. And he was raved as the greatest judge in the world. And he understands he's whipped them and he helped them. And look, if it helps the woman to go in there and tell their story in front of a judge, I got no problem with that. But whatever. 30 women were invited to the hearing. I think 20 showed up. I guess 30 would have showed up if they could have got money, but since there was no money, 20 of them showed up. Okay, so that's it. I know this went long. Look, this is a pretty good series if you're into law and you understand how the process, how they kind of paint this picture of all these poor women and the crookedness of the federal government. I think Palm Beach PD did try to do a pretty good job. I don't know why it took them 7 months to get a damn search warrant. They sat on the house. They got women. They didn't send in a confidential informant. I'd have sent in a woman that was 20 that said she was 17 and had her go in there as a confidential informant. And they didn't do that. I don't remember them doing that. But it took them 7 months to get a warrant. And in that 7 months, a lot of women were going in there. So they allowed them. And then afterwards, when the prosecutor cut them a sweetheart deal, it didn't matter anyway. So if you want to watch a really good series, I think it was really good because, I don't know, I guess I just like the legal. I like sticking it to government and showing, and I like sticking it to liberal lies about how the left loves women and they really want to protect them and how women are so strong and yet they always claim the victim. So anyway, I thought it was good.
Of a crime.
Yes.
What was the crime of which you were convicted?
Two counts. One, soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution.
This guy was dirt. He was a piece of crap. But you know what? He was a piece of crap with money. And he was a piece of crap with a lot of friends. Like from the left kind of friends. Weinstein, Woody Allen, Clinton, who was that other freaking star that was with him? He just had some really... Kevin Spacey. All your left wing, all your people that tell you about how they care about women's rights and how they care about equality and how they care about we need more government and how they care about keeping you safe if we just take guns and how you people don't need guns. All those people, the hypocrites on the left, this was their guy. And this guy was surrounded by their guys. And you know what? It just showed how the system can be. It isn't fair. The law isn't equal. And it just pisses me off when I see people going to decent people who made a mistake going to prison for life or for years. Or we got people locked up for freaking marijuana. And then people like this and the people that surround him get nothing. Wow. I thought it was good. I know it went long. I've been wanting to do this. If you don't have it, it's too many series for me to copy and put on Bitchute, but it's a pretty good series. All right, we'll end that there.